had here. Yeah.
Exactly. The good old days. Hair no gray. And
Just the more of them, just the more of them
it's
Wall
skinny.
and Big Pokey. That was big. That was a dude on it with him.
No, I'm talking about the Lupe version.
Oh, the loop. Oh yeah,
The Lupe version.
Yeah.
You should know me better.
Wait a minute, hold on. You ain't mess with Paul Wall, Dave?
the Paul Wall version ain't bad either. He wasn't. It ain't Lupe.
It ain't Lupe, but I just mess around with Paul Wall a little bit. He wasn't bad.
Paul Wall at 05 is decent. Listen,
I'm a Chicagoan, so the Lupe version resonated with me more. I
Very
mean,
true.
yeah,
true.
I mean, you just listen to rappers from Chicago, but
huh?
You'll just listen to rappers from Chicago, Dave. That's the case.
That's
the case. You be bigging up the boys from over east more.
Wait. I distinctly remember riding the car one day with Dave, and he was bumping a lot of Project Pat.
Oh, right, yeah. That's your boy, Pat.
I was like, "What? All right, Dave. Okay."
Well, yeah,
that's one of the big shows that we missed through this pandemic. They were gonna all reunite. Was it gonna be in the Joliet, Dave? I think
somewhere like that. It was somewhere way out. Yeah,
3-6.
Yeah.
Oh.
They were gonna do They were gonna reunite it at the prison in Joliet. I think it was gonna be like a big festival show.
You never seen so many old gangbangers in one place in your life.
Exactly.
Yeah, a bunch of old folks was gonna be out there.
I had to get one of my dad's confiscated 150 hats.
I know, right?
In front.
Yeah, that was gonna be a time there, man. That was gonna be a time.
Exactly. COVID and crack all in the same room.
Man.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe they'll push that back to next year if we all make it. But
I think that's a good point, because if we all make, because things are getting hot again in the streets with the corona.
Yeah, I
be
heard,
safe,
man.
y'all. Be safe.
I be wanting to come home, but then I see the rates and I'm like, oh no, I guess I can't come.
Well, wait a minute, how's it out there in Cali? Is Cali spiking or no?
But Cali's not even on the don't travel list for Chicago, so y'all must be doing decent.
Yeah.
Well, parts of California is, you got other parts that don't believe in following the rules.
Yeah, big state.
Yeah. So, yeah. It's good to see you again. Demise got on a Wakanda shirt again.
Yep. Always, man. Gotta represent. Gotta represent, man.
Yeah. Let me reel this in, I guess. We're back at it, a little time off, but this is the In the Building show, episode 9. And you see Dave, as always, with us. And glad to welcome back my big cuzzo and a media veteran who he's walked away from the game, but I've been lucky enough to drag him back in at least.
Hey, you put me back in always, cuzzo. Come on, man.
But co-founder of War Media and everything. So a lot of this is attributed to his ambitions and dreams. And he's always around when we need him. But Demise is going to be riding with us for the next couple weeks or so at least. Because Demise, beyond just being interested in it, he's pretty passionate about the world and election, politics and stuff like that. And I just wanted to have his voice involved in the show as we get near. We're on the verge of this election now, and there's going to be a lot of interesting stuff popping up. And I think before we're going to get into that in a minute, but I just want to get D involved in this stuff. I had some intentions of doing like a straight political show, like a short series leading up. And I was going to see about involving you in that. It'd be straight. It'd just been about politics and all this stuff that's going up leading up to the election. But this sort of took off in its place. So we still have this as a platform for that type of talk. So we're gonna do it on here and keep things going and keep people informed and let y'all know what we think about things. And also that's the reason why I moved the show for now to Wednesdays, because I didn't want to do a show on election day. Because D, I think you remember back in 2016 when we did that election show.
That was a wild night. That was a wild night.
Yeah. So I don't want to do that again. You know, I just want to be able to sit back and observe on that
Yeah.
evening and see how things go. But
I need you to you to airship me one of them Willis Palmers just in case things don't turn out right.
I'll give you the ingredients, man. You could go to the store around your way and put you one together real quick.
Yeah, I mean, may have to just have it ready for the next morning in case things don't turn out right.
Yeah, man. We may need to down a couple Arnold Willis Palmers that evening, man. But in the meantime, though, I put it on the list of topics that you can see it already on YouTube, and I think the main thing I want to get across in this show this evening is that I'm kind of sick of rappers talking about politics, and I've never been a person who's been like, a lot of people be like, celebrities need to. We don't need to hear about celebrities' politics, their views, and stuff like that. I've never been that guy. I think if you're a tax-paying citizen of this nation, you can say whatever you want about whatever the political process, whatever you want to say about it. But so what I'm saying now is not necessarily me changing that, because a lot of celebrities are responsible and they use their voice in a responsible manner, and they're part of, they engage the public in good ways. They're part of good initiatives and stuff. But it seems that every rapper now who speaks on politics speaks it out of their ass. And they do things to...
Not every last one of them, cuzzo. Not all of them.
Everyone, well, the ones who getting the most pub are.
That's the ones, right.
And I'm getting sick of it. I'm sick of Ice Cube. I'm sick of 50 Cent now who want to start some shit up. I'm sick of these dudes, man. They don't know what they're doing. I'm sick of Kanye. I'm very sick of Kanye. I just can't deal with this stuff no more, man. I admire these guys for so long, and I got love for these guys as brothers and as people who have entertained me for many years. But I just need them to shut the fuck up. They can vote for whoever they want. They could vote for whoever they want. They could take whatever positions they want. But I just need them to shut the fuck up.
I will say this much. Kanye has been. Yeah, man, he's been gone for a minute. Oh, there it is. All right, he got his mailing. He got his mailing ready to go.
Yeah, Dave ain't he's making no mistake.
None whatsoever. So, Kanye has been doing his thing and saying kind of wild stuff for a while. I think we all know in the community where he stands at, right? With 50 Cent, I think 50 Cent just likes to be a heel. I just think he likes to needle people. You know what I'm saying? He'll see something. Oh man, what is you know what I'm saying? Even a lot of the interviews that he have, it's kind of like, what are you talking about? You know what I'm saying? You kind of just kind of take it really at face value, because that's what he wants people to see. He wants to see his words just at face value. I remember one time I saw him on the Breakfast Club. He was like, "Yeah, I think Charlamagne or somebody asked, man, how do you get away with just saying all this crazy wild shit?" And he's like, "Well, I be 50 Cent the rapper. I ain't, you know what I'm saying? I ain't 50 Cent the media mogul talking. That's 50 Cent the rapper talking." And it could be the same thing with him coming out talking about, "Oh man, Donald Trump. I mean, Joe Biden will raise the taxes. Yeah, vote for Donald Trump." It's the same thing. So I think you just have to know what you're getting with 50 Cent. You know what I'm saying? Just watch Power if you like Power. Now with Cube is something different, because I think all three of us right here, and plenty of Black Americans, men and women, and probably outside of the community as well, grew up listening to Ice Cube at very formative times in our years growing up, right? Starting off with NWA, going into his solo projects, like that. He's always been able to tap into the social ills of Black America, and in a political way.
From 90 to 94, because he was the most important rapper in America.
In the game, in America. Yes, you're 100% right. But with this though, I do think his heart is in the right place, but I think that I think he got played.
Yeah,
There's no way that this man, as smart as he is, because he is a smart man, he's a very smart man.
yeah, I agree.
It's no way that he couldn't see that coming. And I think I had tweeted, I tweeted it out probably. I know I texted to the guys and I chained. It was from Donald Trump Jr. and with the picture, the doctor picture of 50 Cent and Ice Cube with the Make America or Trump hats on, whatever like that. And I'm like, you had to see this coming. I mean, if everybody saw, it's like, dude, they basically are using you to put you out in front of the black community, say, hey, your little rapper man here, your little big three man here, he likes us. So you should like us too. You know what I'm saying? The patent plan. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, just call it the big chain plan too. Why don't you motherfuckers? So
Right.
so
The Winston Chains playing.
yeah, it's kind of like, man, how dumb do you think we are? But unfortunately, there's a lot of them out there. And people will glob onto like, oh man, you know what I'm saying? I'm rad with Cube. This what Cube said.
Yeah. Again,
it's more to that, man. It's more to Cube.
Yeah. We've spoken about it on past shows and issues with rappers. There's the cult of personality issue. And I think we as consumers and as people who are connected to the culture of hip hop, so many times in our culture, we just get wrapped up in these artists, and they may be great artists who have these personas that we latch on to, and we think that because they've written great with songs or they've done interesting movies or whatever projects, and that we got to ride with them. And I just, you got to think for yourself, man. You got to be more of a critical thinker than that, than to be like, well, if Q messes with Trump, then maybe I should mess with Trump. No,
but think about this.
He, like we said, because he's being deceived on one level, and he's also being painfully naive on another level. Like, just to think that.
But think about this, guys. But think about this, guys. The same cult of personality that they're trying to push with Ice Cube onto Black America is the same cult of personality that was successful with white America and Trump. There's no difference. It's like we did this, and this is our formula, and we see what happened. Yeah. Let's get Kanye West, let's get Ice Cube, let's get 50 Cent, and try to push that cult of personality onto Black America.
The power of celebrity.
Yeah. And I think Dave could definitely pick up from this, but I think that's what they're trying to do. But Black America, to our credit, we're smarter than that.
Yeah, we have to be more cynical in a way that, because our lives have depended on these things. Our history, we can't just, if we went for every politician that had a nice smile and treated us well, we'd have got to we'd have fell into a lot more bullshit than we have throughout the years. And in some ways that has been true too. When you look at, go ahead, Dave. Go ahead.
No, that's definitely, that's happened. I think the issue at hand is that
I was gonna say it has happened. I was gonna mention Clinton, and
it's happening. It's happening now. I mean, it's just about accepting the lesser of two evils. I think that's if we're gonna be candid about it.
That's true, but I think the one evil is distinct enough to where
it's like bad policy or the Klan.
Yeah, we're not talking about two white bread, two like you could say that Gore and Bush would be more of a equal evil, or even Kerry and Bush, or if it was like Hillary and Kerry or something like that, that'd be more of an equivalency there. There's no equivalency with Trump. It wasn't the case in 16, and it's not the case now. We know now that's not the case because he's had the job for 4 years and he's fucked up royally. So why are people still entertaining the fact that he should have the job? Why anybody entertain that is beyond me, man.
White supremacy.
But for them, I understand it. But for anybody who was
anybody black,
anybody black,
Okay, I got you.
I don't understand it.
Dave.
Well, apparently you didn't watch the Republican debate. I mean, what's his name? Herschel Walker, Tim
What do you
Scott.
mean the convention?
Yeah, the convention. Yeah, sorry, the convention.
Yeah.
Herschel Walker, Tim Scott. They all, they all share why they believe in, why they're drinking the Trump Kool-Aid.
They're all desperate washed men, and
They're all desperate. What?
washed men who don't.
Watch.
Yeah, Herschel Walker can't get it on the Cowboys no more. So the closest he can get is buddying up with their owner by being a Trump head. So no, that's what he's doing. Tim Scott just wants to be in politics. You have, I mean, these are times, man. These are real times out there, man. And they always exist among us, but
always will.
Yeah, and on a wider level, it's just like I don't, why are we entertaining this stuff from anybody? From why are we allowing entertainers to mislead us when the truth and the facts are all out there? Why are we entertaining this stuff?
Well, I mean, I think the issue at hand is that that America is not Black America, whatever, is not a homogenous thinking entity.
It's not a monolith, yeah.
Right, it's not. I mean, that's the whole thing. I think that's a lot of things that, Black people have a varied range of experiences. I've noticed that in my own family. I've noticed that with friends. It's not. We have a universal story from our origination point, but today we don't have, we don't necessarily have the common thread that once tied us all together. Maybe outside there are some universal truths. There may be how the police treat you. There may be some racial discrimination, but it doesn't necessarily always affect people the same ways. So the way they view being American or Black American, it's going to be through a different lens. So you're not going to. So the same way. So the way we view things coming from our backgrounds, it's not going to be the same way somebody growing up in the South view things. It's not going to be the same way someone who grows up in a mixed community is going to view things. It's going to be diverse. And I think that's something that we just kind of have to take with a grain of salt. That some people, drink the Kool-Aid. Some people drink the Kool-Aid. And that's ultimately, to your point, is that you shouldn't, of course, rappers are not the people that speak. You shouldn't be the people that are speaking for you. Of course, if I'm Trump, I'm going to try any trick that I can get, or to gain some favor or curry some favor in the Black community. Whether it works or not is irrelevant. But I've got to go with whatever option, whoever's going to take the bait. Yeah. That's whoever. I'm doing what I'm supposed to do.
He's doing exactly what he wants to do and what he's intending to do. I agree with you. Yeah.
It's self-preservation. It's being or self-preservation, or it's being able to know that if I get a certain percentage of the vote, then that may be enough to create an upset or be able to get the majorities right in certain states where exactly. I need to, borderline states, or where I can get the majority vote, so I can get the electoral vote in that state.
Yeah, his game at this point is attacking the undecided voters as with as much ferocity as he can. He's got to create as much doubt in undecided people and people who. And he's got to create. He's got to create.
I disagree. I don't. I'm like, if you listen to that man, he's only really at this point, like directly. I'm not talking about going through like Ice Cube and stuff like that, but like directly, like, dude, he's only speaking. The crazy stuff he's saying is only to his core. Because like the stuff he's saying about masks, about like Fauci.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
definitely.
Like those are only his. Those are the only people that are going to listen to that and say this man is off his meds. Is going to be his day ones. It's no.
I'm not talking about what he's speaking so much as what maybe people behind him and people in the Republican Party are doing in regards to. Interrupt, like I say, messing up voting, trying to get third party people or whatever on ballots and stuff, or third, third candidates and stuff,
Right.
other candidates like a Kanye. With like
Kanye
it came out that we came out early in the year that Kanye was getting support from certain Republican people in regards to getting his name on ballots in states like Wisconsin and the like, states where he could pull off some voters from the traditional Democratic bloc, or the undecideds, or the people not necessarily undecided, but people who are just disillusioned with the whole process, and who think that we are picking in the major two candidates from either an evil or a lesser evil, and aren't enthused about either one of those major candidates.
Listen, I was just watching an interview with Hot 97 with Ebro and his crew.
Yeah, I was gonna bring that up. You shared that interview. Go ahead.
Yeah. But I was gonna say to the point of talking about undecided. They asked Cube, like, "Are you truly undecided?" He was like, "Yes, I am truly undecided on who I'm going to vote for." And Rosenberg, to his credit, he was like, "Dude." He basically want to say he's a white supremacist. Why are you undecided? And Q was like, "Man, I don't trust either one of them." So I'm like, okay, but what is a white supremacist? It should be, and it's a binary choice here in America. You writing in your grandmama, Mickey Mouse, a dead president, even if you want to write in President Barack Obama, it means nothing. It's a binary choice. So, to your point, Kyle, what Trump is trying to do, he's trying to hit those voters or potential undecided voters with that mindset. I want you to say undecided, because if you don't vote for him, it's basically a vote for me. Yeah. So if you don't vote for Biden, it's basically a vote for me. So let's kind of keep pushing that for these last 2 weeks. Even if you got to say, stay undecided. Yeah, let me keep saying it. To your point, Dave, let me keep saying all this crazy, wild shit, But at the same time, we got this information coming out, and you have people in a Ice Cube, who's held in a high regard within the Black America, saying he's undecided. Just keep it, just keep the shit just floating around. We don't want to clean nothing up. Just keep it moving. And you know what? I can basically slide in. So that's his game plan right now, because if you do believe the polls, which I'm skeptical of, is saying that Biden's going to win, don't believe it. Still go out there and vote. Still, as Dave just did, put up that ballot.
Right. Show it off.
So now I got to stick it back. I have to drop it off in the mail. But no, what I was going to say is that, if I don't know for any of y'all watch CNN, but Trump is like the renegade. I don't know what it's called, the renegade BD or the renegade GD right now. He that goes to show you how old I am. But I mean, at this point, the Republicans are running counter campaigns against him. Like the ones who are not the sycophants, the ones who are,
the ones that are in danger of losing their spots in their home areas because they know that their voting base in their particular areas aren't messing with Trump. Yeah.
But I say that to say is that it's showing. I think that shows enough to show that, one, he doesn't have the support of his party as much as people think that he does, and that a lot of the people that are voting for him are really his diehards. It's not like I don't think it's going to be 2016 where there are people who are disenchanted that Bernie didn't, get the nomination, or feeling disillusioned. I think a lot of those people are, I just know he's nuts now. And I think a lot of people have buyer's remorse. There's a significant part of the population that voted for him now definitely have buyer's remorse. So I don't see that being replicated in 2016. And I don't think there's enough voter apathy that existed, the same time around, especially with COVID. I think if everything without COVID, I think we would be more in danger of there being a two-term Trump. But I think COVID has really compromised that. And the only people that are buying you could see the crowd behind him, we're all wearing masks. Whether they're all, I guess, agreeing with Trump saying, or at least paying it lip service, but they're not. But they're at the same time, they're trusting in God but carrying ammunition. So they're still protecting themselves. And I think just he's shown himself to be so reckless just in every way that in every aspect of his life, whether it be private, whether it be professional, the way he addressed his own COVID infection shows that he is not the person to be trusted and handling this pandemic. So, I mean, ultimately, if he becomes president, I guess I got to look at moving to Canada, because it does say that, one, either the fix comes in, or maybe we as Americans are really stupid, as you know, the rest of the world kind of believe we are.
We're leading to that. I don't know if y'all saw that Idiocracy movie with Mike Judge.
Yeah, I saw it.
We're leading to that. If we vote Trump to a second term, we're probably gonna hit that society in about 50 years.
It's still possible. And let's not forget.
50 years. I'm thinking more like 10.
I'm being kind. Yeah, I'm being kind,
but let's not forget about
that was a real weird. Like I say, Idiocracy. Anybody, if you haven't seen that movie, check it out.
It's a wild movie. But remember, 40 to 45% of this country believe in what he says, and it's still a chance for him to win. So just remember that, everybody.
And our hopes is that those people are either, to put it blunt, dying off, or that they're just being.
They see the light.
Hostage.
They see the light.
So if something better came along, that they could be changed in a way.
The sad reality is a lot of the people who are pro-Trump people don't they don't wear a mask, and two, they're not being the people that are most affected by COVID. I mean, that's they've in their minds, a lot of them see it as a form of social Darwinism. I mean, and I see that being where I'm at more now than everywhere. I mean, I think that it's a difference between. I think there's a difference in Chicago where people kind of socialize and things like that, and still go out and kind of flout the rules, versus where people kind of, where they know they should be doing certain things or taking certain precautions, but they don't do it maybe for whatever reasons. But there's a difference where it's just kind of obdurate, or it's just like, intentionally willful ignorance. And I definitely kind of see that where I live, or at least close to where I live. It's just like this willful ignorance, this disbelief in that this thing exists, or that it can kill me.
It's plenty willfully ignorant minds in America, man. It's definitely the case, unfortunately. But yeah, I want to transition because we got a nice guest, a special guest, jumping on with us, and Miss Mia Johnson, first time joining the show. How you doing, Mia?
Hi, hey everybody. I'm glad to be here.
Thank you for coming on, Mia. Mia is a entertainment editor with fansided.com. She does a lot of good work writing and podcasting on pop culture, pop culture topics and stuff like that. She follows shows and various media and stuff. And we wanted to get her on this week because one show that definitely me and Demons have been up on throughout the summer and early fall has been Lovecraft Country.
Mm-hmm.
Dave, I know you've seen some of it, Dave, right?
The first three. Sorry.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, you have to catch up a little bit, but he's aware of the show too. So we want to talk about the show as it had its season 1 finale on Sunday. So we want to speak with someone who's really been thinking about it, like me and B have, and definitely want to indulge in what's been an interesting show that's done a lot to speak to our times. Even though it's a period show, it speaks to a lot of things that we dealt with as Black folks throughout time, and it's done it in an inventive, adventurous way that we haven't really seen on TV before. So I thought it was worth doing a real segment on the show. But we're gonna get to that in a second. But Mia, I'll be glad to include you in our previous conversation too, because you're on social media and everything, and you see all this stuff with all these foolish rappers and stuff. And one thing I want to say though, before we got out of this discussion completely, is that I think Dave, you brought it up well with the change, the way that we're not all about the same things, or we can't be a monolith because there are so many different experiences that we have as people, And as individuals, you know, I want to get back into that because I wanted to you bring that up with 50 Cent, because 50, as detestable as he can be with the way that he expresses things, he is being pretty blunt about why he's voting for Trump. He said he wants lower taxes.
Right.
He's a rich man.
Did he actually come out and say, I am going to vote for Donald Trump?
Yeah.
Did he say that?
Yeah, I put the link up, the news. I'm putting up some links in comments. You can see it on YouTube. But YouTube, there's a link for a Newsweek article that says that it says he's doubling down on his Trump endorsement after seeing Biden's tax plan. Quote, I don't want to be 20 cent.
that was actually great.
Yeah, that's a good quote. So I mean, he is being, like I say, he's being blunt, and he's being direct to the point about why he's voting for Trump, and he's not basing it on anything besides the fact that he doesn't want to be taxed more as a man who is in the 1%. And that's the type of thing that when we talk about people like Tim Scott and Herschel Walker probably in the 1% at this point, but there are other black people who are in the 1% or close to it who may feel the same way as 50. There are other black people who have long felt that way about taxes, not want to be taxed more, or they may be more lean more towards the angelical side, where no, they may want to see Roe versus Wade be overturned. They may want to see who Trump continues to put into the Supreme Court, and other judges in the across the nation who they may want that influence to continue on in regards to Trump. They may want to live more in America that Trump envisions. So that's something that we have to keep in mind too. But also with rappers, I think for so long we take it for granted that rappers as a whole truly want to speak for the black community. But given the success that rappers have had over the years and the way that we've lifted them up as captains of industry in many ways and made them into 1%ers, where they're not just brothers speaking from the corner anymore talking shit. You got people like 50 Cent, like Jay-Z, who are rich beyond their wildest dreams. And some of them choose to represent. Jay does a lot actually to help out people who have less than him. But you're going to have other people like 50 who don't give a fuck. And they're going to look out for them. So, I mean, how much can we really rely on the average rapper to represent for us nowadays? That's something we have to keep in mind as well. Kanye, another example of a brother who is much different now than he was 15 years ago. And a lot of that has to do with the money and the wealth that he's been and the people who he's been embraced by and exposed to in the time since.
Mia, what do you think about all that?
Oh my Lord.
That was a lot to digest.
Yeah.
I just had to bark all that up, Mia. So take your time with it. If you just want to if you got any general statements you want to make about that.
Yeah. Well, I took a sworn oath on Twitter, and I tweeted this today. I was like, look, I'm trying to be like, if I don't have anything nice to say, I'm not going to say it at all. That's why my Twitter.
For that. Say some unnice shit if you want.
Oh no. See, you picked the wrong person. Then it's been a really weird to me election season, and I think everyone can agree that this has just been a weird year in general, to where it's put me in this place where I'm like, what is going on? Every single moment, it's like, how is this happening? How is this real? And I guess if we're going through like the celebrity angle and the rapper angle, to me, it's like, I know where I stand. I'm like, okay, I know my decisions. I know my thoughts. I know my beliefs. So it doesn't, to me, really take, a rapper or something to, try to sell me on, well, all of a sudden I didn't agree with this tax plan. Or I didn't agree with, I don't know, whatever's going on, to be like, oh yeah, I definitely agree with 50 Cent. That's going to, change my thoughts just like that. But then the other thing is I worry and I'm like, okay, well, how many, I don't want to say like susceptible people, but how many people are out there where, it is, they just kind of soak this up and, they're just kind of going with whatever, Kanye has to say or whatever such and such has to say. So for me, it's like, my wish is that people will be smart about the election, smart about the candidates, their beliefs, what they want to support. But at the same time, it's like I worry, like who are the leaders? Who are these people that, some other people are looking up to? I will say though, like this whole past year, I've been really, just happy and I don't know, happy to see that there are people who are trying to make these changes, trying to go out and support what's right for them, like Black Lives Matter, going out and protesting. Because that to me, that's the real action, right? When you really get out there and you're really fighting for, fighting for your rights, which is, like I said, and we can transition to Lovecraft Country whenever, but that's to me why Lovecraft Country was so like, wow, because it was almost like you had these two things going on simultaneously, like a look at the past and then putting that side by side of what's going on today. And I was like, wow, people are still out there fighting. And I'm like, okay, I hope, I know we're strong enough. I know we're strong enough to continue that fight, but I'm like, okay, just push a little bit more longer. And, I hope that we got this. So
I feel you. I think one of the, amongst all the wreckage of this year, one thing that we can be positive about and galvanized about is the fact that our protest culture is as defined and is matching the culture of those who want to systemically oppose us. It's as strong as it's been since probably the 60s. Maybe there was a time in the late 80s where you had people were really on the anti where people had their minds on South Africa and stuff like that. Apartheid and a lot of that was brought to America, and we here were dealing with so much things with crack and everything, and that was a time when maybe a lot was inflamed as well. But I think even more though, when you look at people being out in the streets and people really mobilizing, and that's a class of people that is coming up from the streets and from the actual, from the grassroots. And it's not just people who get onto some sort of platform through musical talent or acting or something. And, we have that as well. Like I said, at the beginning of the show before you came on, there are a lot of entertainers who are being responsible with their voices and their platforms. But the ones we hear about the most are the ones who, get the headlines because they say whatever they want and do whatever they feel. But there are a lot of responsible celebrities out there, but more so than that, there are a lot of responsible regular people who are taking their destinies into their own hands, and they're really repping for the people. Be they black or be they even white and want to be allies, responsible allies and stuff like that. More people than at any point in and I can remember in my life are really about fighting for Black rights right now, and that's something that we have to take as a positive from this year. As the fight is tough, but we have galvanized a lot of people this year. And I think when we look at art, like you said, with Lovecraft Country and with quite a bit other examples in the mainstream media, more so than there's been in quite a while, we're getting art that speaks to that as well, speaks to the frustration, speaks to the history, the things that we've been dealing with, and it speaks to rebellion in a way. Sometimes it's responsible, but sometimes it's bloody, because there's a lot of blood in Lovecraft Country, especially in this last episode. So it's in some ways it's like it's a way to vent out frustration and do it in a creative way. And that's as we get into that now, I giving up my overall thoughts on the show. I think it was a very fun, entertaining show. It was a show that had something to say, and it, like I said, did it in a way that we haven't seen with black creators often in history, where you could approach historical topics and historical issues and not necessarily be a downer show or a history lesson, a dry history lesson. This was a very adventurous show that dealt with a lot of different themes and a lot of different genres, and it did like I said, it took us back in time, but it brought us back to the present in a lot of ways with music and stuff like that. And it wasn't perfect. It wasn't, I thought that sometimes it was unfairly compared to a Watchmen from last year, which was pretty much perfect in the way that it dealt with similar issues. But I thought it was still a good show. And when you look at, I'm sure you've seen Mia, some of the reports coming out of this weekend, it was a more popular show than Watchmen. It got bigger ratings than Watchmen. So it's going to, whereas some people were looking at Watchmen and like, well, we could have a second season. We would like a second season. We're pretty much almost assured that Lovecraft Country is going to have a second season because of those ratings. HBO is not going to let this end with what happened on Sunday.
Yeah.
So that's the success. And when you look at Misha Green and everybody who was involved with the show, you have to applaud them because, and we'll get to the actors and stuff too in a little bit, but I was impressed with the show overall. There was some things, some issues with some of the storytelling that I had with it, but it was a ride. I was with it from week one. I was willing to ride with it, and it took me somewhere towards the end where I was satisfied, and I think this show has potential to really have an impact on the way that Black creators and creators of color tell certain stories in the future, where it's like we don't have to be bound by restrictions in the way that we address heavier topics. So, if you want to jump off on that, Mia, what was your overall take on the show, and what do you think is the significance of it?
Oh man, yeah, that's a loaded question. Just because I'm here because I of course really love Lovecraft Country, and I've been literally like eat, sleeping, and dreaming Lovecraft Country since before it started with this podcast and covering it. So yeah, my overall impression, it like subverted my expectations first of all, because I saw that it was billed as like a horror show, and I was like, well, I don't like horror, but I like the concept of you got a basically predominantly entirely Black cast, Black showrunner and all that, and they're going back in time. And it's the 50s, but it's not like, The Help, like with Octavia Spencer or, putting them in stereotypical roles. It's not 12 Years a Slave, which, in their own way are good. Then there are other ways, they're pushing, old stereotypes. But
again, like you talk about 12 Years a Slave, like as a history lesson is great. Like, damn. But I remember watching that movie in the theater and like, I can't watch this movie too many more times in my life. Like,
yeah,
I just couldn't. But go ahead.
Yeah. So yeah, it's like when you're showing the struggle, which I'll say in general on screen, it felt like for so long we were just bound to that narrative, the slave or the help or whatever else. And in this way, it was fun to show, it's a struggle, but they did it in a way where I'm saying, like, they gave personality to the characters. They gave them, all these motivations. They gave them relatable, background stories, some stuff that maybe even we went through, our parents went through. And to top it all off, it was all these different genres. It was sci-fi. Some days it was action and adventure. And because, I'm a nerd anyway, so that stuff like always appeals to me. Like, I always say I love Doctor Who. I love Star Wars. I love Marvel. I love all those things. So to finally see, in a way, these were Black heroes. These were Black heroes showing their struggle. It wasn't like, okay, it's not Black Panther beating up Claw or Michael B. Jordan or somebody. It wasn't like that.
Mhm.
But it was clever the way they were able to insert this narrative of like, okay, they've got this magic that they need to defeat, and it's, like put a curse on their family or whatever. And they've also got racism, to try to defeat or to overcome. So it's like, which monster is the biggest? And I think most people took away, it's like, wow, racism is kind of the bigger monster.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
That was one recap. I'm trying to go over some links now, but it said it plainly, like that is the overall conceit of the show. Like, monsters are scary, but racism is scarier. It's always been scary, and that's sort of hits the show hits you with that early, and it sort of I think in some ways it sort of went away from that because it had to deal more with the family story by the end, but overall that's always been the conceit of the show, especially the first 3 episodes. And Demond, I know you wrote that great piece following the 3rd episode with with the move into the house on the north side, and that was like it was just very. The show was very explicit in those early episodes about the fact that we dealing with these monsters, but white folks can be really monsters. So
I was going to say
right quick, like, and then looking at the last episode, like it sort of struck me how you rarely have ever had a show that so distinctly make that statement about white folks on a major station, on a major network. There was that one scene in particular where they brought the Braithwaite, that was Braithwaite, right? The original Braithwaite. And they had him in the circle. They just whipping his ass. Like, they was just whipping whipping all the he just stood there representing all of the evil of white folks in history. And they was like whipping beating them and whipping them for that shit. I was like, when have you seen that on TV where black folks were this empowered and this just out for revenge like this and really taking it out on the white person? Like, you've rarely ever seen that.
Had to be done in a fantasy context, though.
Yeah,
I think that's part of the. I mean, it's done in an alternate reality fantasy contest, and I think that so that's something that has to be kept in mind.
In reality, you haven't had many opportunities like that.
Mm-hmm.
You never have had many opportunities like that. And when you look, it usually has been on the other side, and that's again was a big part of this series, much like Watchmen, where everything really starts from the Tulsa massacre, and that's really probably the greatest example of whites, of white people really slaughtering black people on American soil. Like, one of the most clear examples of that we've seen. We've been on the other side of that. But we had to look to fantasy to have an example, to be able to, much like in the way that Tarantino allowed for Hitler to be shot up, in a way that, Americans and Jews couldn't do that in real life. He had to create something, create a whole fantasy of doing that in his movie Inglourious Basterds. We got to create similar. And he did it, of course, with slavery as well in Django Unchained. So we had to create something like that for ourselves. That's the sort of, again, when I talk about how Lovecraft Country may influence, me and Dave got a history with that movie. But when we talk about how Lovecraft Country may influence others in the future, Django kind of influenced others too, I think. And, for better or worse, and it leads you to scenes like we had in the finale, where right there when the white man got beat up by a bunch of black folks. So, some people love to see that. Some people, you got questions or whatever. But anyway, me, I want to throw this at you. Leading into the show before it aired, what were your thoughts about it, and what made you want to get to the point where? What made you want to get to the point where you want to cover it weekly? And 2, being a self-described nerd, as you say. Were you familiar with the book, and what were your initial thoughts about having a story about Black people and dealing with racism being having it merged with that story, the culture of the Lovecraft, the H.P. Lovecraft world, which is so distinctly, it's so distinctly its own thing. And of course, there's also been the history of Lovecraft himself being a racist. Like, what do you think about all this stuff coming together when you first heard of it?
Well, you know what? I want to see if Demons, is that it? Did you have something to say? Because I thought I was like, he's got something good to say.
No, that's a good question. I do have a question after that, but I want you to answer that question.
Okay, I got you. Yeah. Well, yeah. The first part, why I first started covering it, I'm trying to think back. It really started with the my boss, my supervisor, kind of, we go through, okay, what shows are coming up, what's worth us covering, and we do like really well with HBO shows, just because it's like, like you said, Watchmen, all these shows across the board, they're always very good. So when Lovecraft Country was brought our way, it's like you have to have that foresight. You're like, is this going to be good? Does it have potential? Are people going to like it? So it was, in a way, it was a risk for us to, it's like, okay, should we put in all our chips onto this? Like, getting freelance writers to talk about it, getting me to talk about it, getting a podcast. Like we don't normally do this with, every TV show.
Sure.
So, we looked at it. We were like, it's got an awesome cast, Courtney B. Vance, Journey Smollett, everyone else. Like, okay, you can't go wrong there. It's got an interesting premise, like I talked about before. Definitely something that we haven't seen before as well. So that was kind of the decision. We said, okay, let's go all in on this. We had some other affiliate sites who were covering it as well. And yeah, from there, it was just like, okay, now that we've kind of picked this as our really like a passion project, it's like, okay, how deep do we want to go into it? And that is when we started looking at, okay, well, what's the connection to the book? What's the connection to the title? Who's the guy involved and all this? So we were publishing, I think like a week before the series had aired, a bunch of like essays and all these things explaining H.P. Lovecraft and all that. So to get on the topic of him, which
there's a lot of
there's a lot to unpack about him. Before I get into that, though, we in one of our podcasts we interviewed someone who is like a kind of a H.P. Lovecraft fan, but not so much a fan of him, but a fan of his work. And we had that conversation, like, how do you separate the artist from blah blah blah? But for him in this series, he had noticed by the end that it wasn't necessarily about H.P. Lovecraft and his work and kind of the ideologies that he put into his work. But I think that the overall premise of the book and what it tried to accomplish by using his name still works because as we know, he's very like openly racist, not really not hiding anything. Wrote this poem on the creation of N-words, all these things, like undeniable evidence basically about how he felt about Black people and I believe some other minority groups as well. So what's interesting is that when you take this story, Lovecraft Country, and like I said, you've got predominantly Black cast, the writers, the directors, or all that, cinematographer. To me, it's like you get to reclaim that part that in his writing or in whatever he did that he tried to take away from you, or tried to demean you, or it's like you're now using his name. And to me, it's like a huge middle finger to him to be like, we've got your name and we put it towards something that is complete 180, complete opposite of what you tried to do for us and our people. So regardless of if by the end it was like not so much Lovecraftian horror, not so much the idea of what he built in his writing, the whole thing to me stands as that, this is ours now. And honestly, I'm thinking it's like the very end of the episode, right? When Letty, she's like, this is ours now. This is our magic.
Yeah.
I'm kind of like being mind blown while I'm speaking.
Yeah, that's a good point.
That's what it feels like to me, at least.
Yeah,
that's what it said. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Go ahead,
one thing I wanted to ask you, because I experienced this watching the show, and I actually wrote a piece for weareregalradio.com. I learned something watching this show. So I'm from the South Side of Chicago, born and raised right here, and I kind of heard about I believe it was the Turnbull Park riots. I believe I heard about that, and I took like a couple of Chicago history classes. I think this was in episode 3 when Ruby was saying like, "Oh man, it's going to be just like the riots over there." And I just kind of did some research and digging, went into that kind of wormhole, we want to say, on the internet, and found this website called the Encyclopedia of Chicago, and it just started like just searching things. And one thing that happens differently here in Chicago that happened across the country was white flight. And I basically threw that term in, and I found out that there was a white power rally march in the neighborhood that I grew up in. Now, not right now, but back right before my parents and my grandparents moved into the home that they're currently in right now. It literally, they could walk outside and see a white power march going in through the neighborhood. This is from the co-founder, I believe, of the neo-Nazi party on the South Side of Chicago, and that's what was happening. So I learned that. Did you learn anything watching the show that kind of jumped out to you like, wow, I didn't know that, or saying, hey, this is a history lesson for me right here?
Yeah. I will add, I'm a South Sider too. Okay. I had to make the jump up so I can be closer to work. So I'm on the other side of the city now. But my parents, my mother's side is originally, back when the north side, or at least that section, Cabrini Green and all that, was still black. They're from that area as well. So I was like, I'm kind of back home. Is gentrification has just completely changed that.
Yeah,
you reclaiming Cabrini.
And this is I grew up in Inglewood, and the march was like literally right in the middle of West Inglewood, but it was like right there. So, no, definitely.
Yeah, and that's something that I was like, I knew a little bit about as far as that. I think I took a civil rights movement class back in college, and even our professor was talking about how, the attempts to keep Chicago or, the neighborhood segregated was so bad. He was talking about when Martin Luther King came to town, it was like they basically drove him out. It was a lot. And you still see the ramifications of that today. But that was something I generally knew about. I didn't so much know about the riots. So that is also completely new to me. But honestly, the biggest thing, which was the biggest moment in Lovecraft Country, was talking about the Tulsa Massacre. Because I was chatting with one of my co-hosts, and he's from Illinois as well, not from Chicago, but he was like, they didn't really, put this stuff in our, the state issue textbooks and all that stuff, right? Right. You learn about, it's Abraham Lincoln, George Washington, all that stuff. But I was like, it almost makes me feel bad. I was like, to not have this piece of history, to not know this. And in one way, it's like, well, it's no wonder it's so dark. They tried to cover it up and all that. But it's like, no, people need to know about this. And the imagery, too, was very, very shocking. It's like, did this, did this really happen? White people going up and down, shooting in the streets and just losing their absolute mind. I was like, holy cow. So that was something that surprised me, something that I had learned about, because again, I was like, I had no clue. I was able to do interviews with the cast. They had some round tables on Zoom ahead of time. And when it was with Courtney B. Vance, and I was also kind of asking him about the significance of this. And he kind of agreed that this is a show where you can learn something about Black history. Because he was like, even in my school books, we didn't learn this. He was like, I had a friend who he just straight up did not think that the Tulsa Massacre ever happened. He was like, no way, that never happened. Because you are just kind of ignorant to that, unfortunately, because of the schooling and the way all that is. So Yeah, we also on Fansided, we had someone cover basically every episode, kind of fact checking in a way, but providing some background and significance to all the historical moments. So things like we saw segregated libraries, we saw talking about segregation and redlining. So many really, really broad concepts. African Americans fighting in the war, like Atticus fought in the Korean War. What was that like for them?
Yeah.
So there's a lot to learn, and I I would probably need to have a long list of things, but that was just a couple that I had taken away.
Mia, in any way, because getting to a little bit of the constructive criticism as it was, that there were a couple pieces that stood out to me. I think one by Soraya McDonald for the Undefeated early in the series, and there was a later one in the last couple of weeks by a writer for The Ringer. I have to bring that up. I forget the author, but both of those pieces sort of spoke towards the some story issues that they had, and there was at times, I think, I don't know if you saw the video where the brother, like I think it was a lot of it was on Instagram. The brother was trying to explain. It's a funny video trying to explain what Lovecraft Country to another person that he's talking.
I saw they had a Saturday Night Live sketch this past.
Oh yeah, I haven't seen that, but I heard about it. Yeah. But it's like there's been like some funny videos about that about how to describe the show to someone who hasn't seen it and stuff like that. And before we went on, me and Dee were talking about the last episode in particular, and you had the I think probably what jumps at you, one of the things that jumped out at us the most was that sequence of visuals towards the end when Atticus is he's being sacrificed for the blood and everything, and all this stuff pops up, all these images pop up, and different things are happening that they didn't reference in the episode yet. Like Dee becomes in control of the monster, and all this other stuff happens. I'm like, whoa, when did this stuff happen? Like it sort of blows you away. Like, and there have been times over the course of the 10 episodes where you may have gotten a little bit too much story, and the show may have seemed like it was trying to deal with so many things, like because you're talking about like all this history stuff that we just went over, and you're dealing with the monster stuff and the H.P. Lovecraft references, and then you took it over to Korea, and you brought a major character from Korea and brought her to America, and it just did a lot. And the ambition, I appreciated the ambition, but at times, like I said, I just thought it was a little bit too much. And I spoke to, I told Dee, like, again, before we came on, like HBO shows by and large used to be, for older people who remember this, like the early Sopranos days and stuff like that. The Wire too, like those seasons used to by and large be 12 and 13 episodes. But HBO is sort of stuck to a 10 episode season with their major shows nowadays. And I just thought maybe this show could have used another episode or two to deal with some of its stories and some storylines. And, I don't know, like I said, you could go ahead and let me know to what degree you agree with that. But, what were in general, what were your major issues, if any, with the show, and what you thought it could have done better to maybe deal with so many of these heavy topics and entertainment ambitions that it was trying to meld together?
Yeah. My biggest complaint with this was that it felt like it got a little clunky or weighed down whenever they tried to, like whenever the magic came into play and whenever they were trying to describe whatever Christina was doing, whatever her dad was doing, how it affected Atticus. And to me, I wish they were a little bit firmer about the rules. And maybe that's, again, me being like, okay, like I said, a sci-fi fan or, into Harry Potter, where it's kind of like, okay, I know Harry Potter can cast a spell. I know if he says the words, he casts the spell with his wand and that's what happens. But with this, it was kind of like every day there was something new. So it's like, okay, one day you need to put intention with the spell. The next day you need to do it on the equinox or it won't work. And you need to,
Right, the moon is up at this level,
Yeah.
we can do it. And if it's up at this level, we can do this spell. And
or like
The witching moon.
the
right,
witching
yeah.
moon.
And then the final episode, I think that it really showed itself when Jaya, the woman with all the tails. Okay, so what happens is Letty stabs Christina, and she's like, "Oh, it's not going to work because such and such her immortality."
Yeah.
And then I think Hippolyta says like, "Oh, they have to be together in order for the spell to work."
Yeah.
And I was like, "Oh, since when?" I was like, if we had
When did
known
that happen?
if we'd known that earlier, there would have been a bigger payoff because you would have been like, "Oh, Dad, they're not together. They're far away. This is never going to happen. Let's going to fail." And then that's when you're like, "Oh, but she's got those tails and she can put them together." So to me, they were kind of playing fast and loose with that. We also on our podcast would talk about how Christina was really, in a lot of ways, sometimes just there to tell us the plot or tell us the rules, like at the last minute.
Right.
And it didn't really fit in organically. It was just kind of like, here's all this stuff we're going to throw at you. And, so now I've got to take notes for my podcast and I've got to go back and I've got to rewind and see, how does this make sense? To me, that was the clunkiest part. Another scene specifically was when Ruby was, it was like her mission to go put this stone in the police captain's desk. And to this day, I don't know why she did that. So, yeah, I'm
right.
like,
She had Christina had her own beef with that. I mean, with the police, with the police commander or whatever, and that didn't really go anywhere. Yeah, right. He was he had a black body with a white head. They should have went more into that.
Yeah.
It seemed like there were some places where they could have went more into that would have been interesting, and that might, that's where you could have used another episode or two. But you also being that we're almost assured there's going to be a second season, and this plays into the role too with the magic and stuff where people died and come back to life. Lady died and come back to life. So we can't. That's something else that I read in another review. Like we can't be too sure that Tick is going to be dead or that Christina even is going to be dead. And
it's TV.
So,
it's TV.
Right, it's TV. And we're dealing with magic on top of it being TV. So it's like they could say whatever the hell they want as far as they write the rules as they go along. So, like I said, it's a ride. Eventually, it's a ride. And what did you think about Christina ended up being as the big bad? I remember in that first episode when they brought on an old boy from Scandal, I was like, "Oh, okay, he gonna be the evil guy." But then they killed him right off, and then it becomes about Christina. So it's like, do you think that she was effective as that representation? Because she, like I said, they had the scene where they beat up the Braithwaite, the older Braithwaite. So he had to be the fill-in for the white evil. But Christina, as a white evil surrogate, I don't know if she was as powerful.
Yeah, it was something where I'm a huge villain fan anyway. I think if you can do a villain right, that's where it really gets interesting. So that's why, it's random stuff like Darth Vader or Eric Killmonger, like all those things. I'm like, when we've got a really compelling villain, they might be bad, but what's good is that they really challenge the protagonist. And with this, it was just kind of like, I never really knew what was her end game. I knew that she was like, okay, well, my father disowned me. I want to be a part of his group or whatever. So for some reason, she was like, I need Atticus. But to me, it wasn't really explained really until towards the end where she was like, oh, well, now I want to be immortal and I need Atticus so that I can complete this spell. And I was like, why did you say that in the beginning? That would have been so much more compelling for us to know why she was doing things and why, like in Avengers, we knew Thanos was like, yo, I want to, eliminate half the universe. We're like, okay, that's crazy. Somebody's got to do something about that. So it was like when it came to Christina, it was just like I never knew what she wanted. And even her dad was like, you know, I want to open up a portal to Eden. I want to maybe have everlasting life. I want to go back to the way where men were in power. So it was like even he had clear motivations. And I also think maybe it got a little convoluted because in the book, Christina's character is a guy, Caleb. And so it kind of added, when she became a woman, it's like you add this layer of, okay, now we've, at least with like Ruby, you know, we've got this shared thing where it's like we want to be something that we're not. We want to fit in. We kind of, you know, like with the whole, we have these identities basically that are marginalized. You know, even though she's white, she's still a woman. So she doesn't have access to everything.
The sons of Adam were the sons of Adam, not the sons and daughters of Adam.
Right.
Yeah. And what I'm saying, you know, that was another thing. Like you added, there's another layer that you added and then didn't really utilize. And then by the end, you got her finally hooking up with Ruby as a girl, and I'm like, okay, well, but then she, you know, we should have been saying spoilers here, but I guess, you know,
it's way too late for that now.
Yeah,
way too. They should have known it'd been spoilers anyway.
You know what? I want to throw this one out to you, Amia. The character, I believe her name was Yahima. That was a character that I would believe in episode 4. Do you think that they dropped the ball by killing her? It kind of goes to Cal's point too. Maybe they could have had more episodes, but do you think they kind of dropped the ball with killing the character off so fast?
Yeah, and that in a lot of ways was really, I think overall, because people, when they saw that happen, it was like, oh, Montrose just killed an indigenous person on screen. You know, that didn't sit right with a lot of people, including myself. And I believe, I didn't see the statement. Somebody told me that Misha Green had apologized for it.
Yeah, she has.
And it wasn't her intention to upsetting. And I knew it wasn't her intention. But yeah, the way that it was carried out was really shocking. Like, oh, wow, we just got this character introduced to us, and now you've killed her off in this really like gory way too. So it definitely was like a hit against the show. And it's like, okay, not every moment is perfect. Some are, it was weird to be like, okay, this is a problematic moment in a show where for the most part, it's been pretty consistent as far as speaking up for people with, you know, marginalized voices and all that. So that was a shock. Plot wise to me, it also didn't, like, I get it. I thought it was going to be more of a tool to help Atticus and Letitia do, you know, whatever they were trying to do. But I guess it was supposed to show that, from what I took away from it, was that we had this character, you know, Montrose, Atticus' dad. I guess it was, they said it's his dad or his father.
Maybe not,
and he had his own struggles to where it felt like, to me, he was always trying to either bury the past because of his trauma, or he was always basically blocking Atticus from trying to, you know, he's like, Atticus, let's just have things the way they are. Why do you keep doing this? Why do you keep pushing the situation? And Atticus is like, no, I need to get further with this. So I think when he killed her, that was him trying to, you know, put a stop to all of that. And I was like, okay, yeah, in a way, I get it as a plot point. You know, just maybe not the smartest way to get around that, if that makes sense.
Definitely. Yeah. Mia, who would you say, you know, because, you know, we talk about some of the issues with the show and the storytelling, but I think the casting was great, and the cast up and down, I think was very, they all the cast, I think the main characters added something to the show and had their moments and stuff. I really think that they were really shooting that Emmy energy into Michael K. Williams in episode 9, especially in that part where he was watching Tulsa burn down. But so he was great, as he's been for about 20 years now. almost on television. And but I would say my MVP of the series was definitely Journey Smollett. And
Oh yeah.
she was I just really fell in love with her. I've she's been around for a long time and we've seen her do different things, but I just really was like, I'm all about anything with her now after this show. She was she was great, and she looked so great in those old 50s clothes. I was like, boy, she was a burner. She'd have been a burner in any era, man. But what did you think about her performance in particular? And would you put her as your MVP, or would you put anybody else up there with her?
Yeah, I think without a doubt she was my MVP. I was like, I don't want to copy your answer, but yeah, for sure. It was just, these little moments, especially I think the haunted house one was one that really stood out to me, especially in the end when they were like exorcising the ghost and they were holding hands and she shouted. I was like, woo. And I'm drawing a blank on some of the other moments, but it was either this the finale episode or even the one in Tulsa where it's just like when they get those really emotional moments, she really, really comes through, and that's where she really shines. Not to say, like the rest of the episode she was slacking, but like it's those moments where it really shows in her face and in her voice, and you're like, yeah, that that is acting. And
she committed throughout the entire show.
Yeah.
Definitely.
And even it was interesting to see like Wumi, who plays Ruby.
Yeah.
I thought it was interesting because at first I didn't know. I think she's British.
She is. Yeah.
Definitely not American.
Oh, is she?
And it was like, yeah.
So, there's always going to be at least one black Brit on an HBO show.
Yeah. You got to have one of them, huh?
Yeah. At least.
I was like, yeah,
Hey, Dave,
I think it. Oh, thank you. Yeah, the question I have for you, me, is did you really believe her and Journey Smollett being sisters? For me, that was kind of that part. I guess that's a part of the show's willful suspension of disbelief.
Well, that kind of happens at Demond's. I think we could speak to that personally. Demond's grandfather and my grandmother are brothers and sisters, and my grandmother was mistaken for white at points in her life, and Demond's grandfather is as dark as he is.
Well, I wasn't even talking about. So
you see where we got it from.
No. I got you, but I'm not just talking about skin tone.
We just talking about the way they acted and stuff.
Not even. I mean, the way they acted, body type, all of that. There's nothing that says there's some genetic, commonalities there. One is British, Nigerian. I don't know. I mean, maybe it's because I'm not as deep into the show. Maybe, once I, get through the extra 7 episodes, I'll see like, oh, maybe they are sisters. But from what I've seen,
I think if you spend more time with them over the course of the show, by the end, you may be more willing to suspend the disbelief.
Right. Yeah, because even I was like, I will admit that first scene when they were at the party or whatever, the block party, I thought it was like her best friend. And then she was like, oh, it's my sister. I was like, okay, well now, they got to be half sisters. And, it's like you just kind of have to accept that. And you're like, okay, it makes sense more, I think, because there are more episodes where it's like, they talk about their mother and they talk about growing up together and all those things.
It's likely they were half sisters,
right?
They didn't have the same, mother.
Right.
No.
I thought they were best friends at the beginning, and then when they clarified, I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
So for me, Kyle asked you for the MVP as an actor or actress in the show. What was your MVP as far as an episode? What was your favorite episode this season?
Oh man. For a very long time, it was episode 3 where they had the haunted house. I thought that one was just that to me was like, okay, this is like a real horror episode. They finally done it where it's scary and you're hitting on all these subjects. And then I think I might have to give it to episode 9, because
that was a wallop. Yeah,
it was a really, really emotional and powerful episode as well. And that also being left on a cliffhanger. Normally whenever they get to the end of the episode, I'm like, okay, it's cool. I'll wait till next week when the next episode comes out. But that one I was like, I have to know this absolute minute what is going to happen next. And that scene with like Letty walking through the fire, and you've got like Montrose looking out over the town, and he's reciting whatever he was reciting. I was like, wow, this is a lot. So
apparently he was reading, he was mentioning people who really died in Tulsa.
Yeah,
he was describing people who, the barbershop, the barber, and I forget, but the people he was mentioning were apparently people who actually died in Tulsa.
And it's those little subtle things too that you either like find out on Twitter, or you find out like we did a whole podcast episode on Easter eggs where they really like, real slick, like they put in those little things like you said, naming all the names of the people and stuff like that. So I think I will definitively say that episode 9 was my favorite.
Mia, do you like the way that they handled or approach the Emmett Till story? Because at first it was more or less an Easter egg. They expanded it more in the episode with episode 8, I believe. And but at first I was sort of like, because but I don't know. I'm still sort of mixed on that, but I do appreciate them. Of course, again, in regards to mentioning history and making it come alive again, and putting people on with stuff who may not know as much about it as because Emmett Till is something that's very without getting into I could get into that. It's very relevant to me. It's always been relevant to me personally, but and it's very relevant to us in Chicago.
Yes,
but, that's not the case for many people across the country. So what do you think about that?
Yeah, that was it was something completely new that wasn't in the book or anything like that. And that they first introduced him in episode 3 with Dee, and they were playing with the Ouija board.
Yeah, and it was very subtle. People had
it was like, how is my trip gonna go? Or
it only came
like
out because they used a specific shirt from a famous picture of him.
Yeah,
it was posted up on Twitter and social media. And people were like, oh, that's Emmett Till's shirt, so that must have been Emmett Till playing on the Ouija with the kids. It was a sort of blew people away at the moment.
Yeah, to me it was a little weird at first for them to be like, he's Dee's friend, and I was like, okay, where are we going with this? And it felt a little weird to just like drop that in there when I was first watching it, and then be like, okay, that's it. Like that's he is her friend, and we're gonna leave it at that. And I was like, okay, I appreciate that, little cameo, but okay, where are we going, or are we going anywhere with this? And then when it played a bigger role in Dee's episode overall, where we see that it's like this is just after the episode where her mother is, out somewhere in outer space, and her father died, and she's got all this going on, and now on top of it, her best friend has died. I was like, okay, I see where they're going here. And again, using his death, it wasn't gimmicky or anything like that. I wouldn't say I was like offended or, it still threw stuff to where, maybe if you didn't learn about this in school or you didn't know too much about it, it was just enough to be like, okay, here's this little history lesson. We're not going to change history too much, if at all. And so, it was, to me, I think an interesting way, to say the least, to at least do this plot with Dee and bring a little history in. So, I never really thought about it too much outside of, okay, this is where they were going when they mentioned him in episode 3. So I think I'm okay with it. I don't think I would have too many complaints. I was a little like surprised though to be like, oh, okay, that's where they're going. That's interesting move.
And that's the importance, I guess, when we talk about having stories like this be in the hands of Black creators.
Mm-hmm.
You have another person try to do this, it maybe goes off the rails a little bit, and for what it's worth, with saying that the show maybe took on too many storylines. At least the storylines were dealt with care.
Exactly.
Whereas another writer or producer may have, with those same materials, may have been like they may have been out of their depth if they tried to deal with that stuff. So it's great that we're at an era now where Black creators can be bolder with the things, with the materials that they're allowed with, and they're allowed to take more risks, and their networks are more willing to take the risk with these creators. So hopefully we could see more shows like this in the future.
For sure.
I want to ask you this one. It's kind of a fun one, I guess. So at the end of episode 10, as it was then explained through the flashbacks, like, oh man, we forgot to tell you all this, so here go the flashbacks. We forgot to tell y'all this. Hold on now, y'all. Right? A Black show. So we saw the part where D and Tick was talking to the monster, right? I know. We saw that point, right? And then at the end of the episode, we saw her come over. She had a bionic arm. Spoiler alert. Sorry, everybody. And then the monster was just kind of like her dog, whatever, like that. From the first episode, we did see that those monsters are created, I guess, like in two ways. One, we saw the one, like the cow gave birth to one. It's like, what the fuck is that? Two, that was wild. But two, we saw when they bit someone, that person turned into it. We saw it with the sheriff.
I completely forgot about that.
Yeah. The one thing that hey man, listen, I'm stuck in the house in quarantine. Yeah. So the one thing that I noticed though is that monster is Black. The one with D. So I don't know if we want to kick it around everybody. I know Dave, we spoiling everything for you tonight. Who do you think the monster is?
It's okay.
Okay, all right. So my theory, if possible, I don't know, Mia, but I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. Could it be George? Could it be her father?
Oh.
He's Black. The rest of them was all white, and the Black one is the one that's over here helping everybody. Like, oh man, let me help you. We can't
Jackie Robinson too, D.
I don't know.
It'll be the ghost of Frederick Douglass.
Right? Who knows? Who knows the show? But I noticed that it was Black, and I was like, okay, who can it be? And the first person I thought of, and it's walking with D and being cool with D, I was like, hey, I wonder if it's George.
Yeah,
what are your thoughts?
I didn't really have any wild conspiracy theories, so I hate.
That's why I'm here, Mia. That's why I'm here.
It was weird to me, though. I was like, okay, why is that one Black? You saw when she was in the car, and the other one, like that pinkish purple, whatever, was about to attack her. And then you're like, oh, this one is different. He looked different. I never seen another one like that before.
Why they be in the woods knowing that monster was out there?
Yeah. That was a little strange. They didn't have a babysitter or anything that night. You never, why bring her there in the first place? But that's something completely different. Yeah, I don't really know, because I'm wondering if that's the they call it the Shaga, if that was the one that materialized when Atticus was outside of Letty's house and the police were shooting him down, and then materialized
that was the same one, right? Yeah. So
I would think that maybe it's just a normal monster. I don't know. Maybe I don't know why the pigmentation is different or anything like that.
It's the monster for the people.
Right. It's for the cause. Right. Down for the cause.
Right. It's the monster down for the cause. Like
right.
When the white evil come up, we got to get that sugar off.
Exactly.
Or whatever it is.
I mean, I don't know.
So No, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was gonna say yes. They have that, the time machine and all that. So maybe they could have got him from somewhere else.
Yeah, that's the dimension. That's the dimension where we tearing off in the white folks' asses. That's that dimension.
I brought him back with my bionic arm. So how about this? I mean, what?
But then you got one more, man. We got to wrap up in a minute.
No. Okay, cool. I was gonna leave it off with this one.
Go ahead.
Yeah. So what are you expecting, and what do you want to see in season 2?
Yeah,
Good question. Good question.
it's a good question. It's funny because they diverted so far from the book that I don't, there's no way for me to be like, oh, I know that this in the book happens. So da 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 da. Basically, now they're kind of starting from scratch and they've got their own world that they've built up, which is, to me, I think it's good. It's fun. They've got the characters have their own personality. I want to see for sure, like, I would love for there to kind of be like a little fast forward to see Letty, and their son now. What happens when she's raising him? Like, do he have magic? That would be cool. Dee for sure was a great kind of, she's her own superhero now. She's got the cape and the arm, and like what can she do with that? What can Hippolyta do with her blue hair and her time traveling, and even the stuff like, Montrose, like, is he going to be a good father now to his grandson? Is he going to open up about his sexuality more? So I would just like to see those things kind of maybe not resolved, but dug into a little bit deeper, because they really they left so much for us to explore. That it's like, come on, y'all, we need something else. I wanna know more about these characters because they're just so interesting that I would hate to leave it there. So that's kind of where I'm like,
that's a good thing.
Questions. Yeah.
They did leave enough to where you do have a taste for another season, and you can feel that this story could be continued, and like just the female characters alone are really you want to keep going with all of those characters. Hippolyta, Letty, and Ruby. Hopefully, if she's still around, she may be a white woman inside of her body or something. But we'll have to see about that. But it's just so interesting show, and it's good that it was a success. And I'm sure we'll see something come of it from next year. HBO, when they have a hit, they don't let up with the hits. So it's good to see. But I was gonna say with George, George may show up at Stonewall with one of the monsters and represent for the LGBTQ and all that.
You never know.
Yeah, with all type of thing. I like that you had the establishment of George Freeman, the son, and the book, him writing the book. So there's a lot of ways you can go with that in the future. So like you, I agree with you, me. I want to see more Letty. I want to see her with the child, and we could maybe even see the adult George as and maybe he's dealing with some stuff too. Maybe he's because you figure now they have the book, they have the book of names. They could pass that on, and you got to figure that George is going to be involved with that as and as well. So it's a parallel world and a parallel universe where you can as a Black person, you could really indulge it and be like, man, what if we had these powers for ourselves and we could fight back racism and the things in our society that keep holding us back? If we could use the power of magic, and if you want to go deeper, maybe you could say that the magic is within ourselves,
right.
and that can be something to and empower us as people.
Exactly.
So that we're gonna leave it at that though. But Mia, we really had a great time with you.
Oh, yeah.
I know, like I say, you being an overall entertainment reporter, I'll be glad to have you back on to talk about other things and especially me, D, and Dave on some levels. We all are about geeky things, things that we.
I have a Wakanda T-shirt on, of course.
Yeah.
So I'll definitely keep in touch with you, and we'll, if there's some opportunities to talk about some other cool things that are coming out on TV and movies and whatnot, we definitely gonna try to bring you back on.
Awesome. Yeah, I'd love to be back. This was fun.
All right, I appreciate that you had a good time. So let everybody know how to follow you and like I say, fansided.com, and of course, but if they want people to follow you online and stuff, social media and all that, feel free to plug whatever you like.
The best way to get at me is Twitter at Mia J Media, and basically that's where I get all the links to my stories and all that good stuff. Sometimes I'll have stuff. We've got a Star Wars site called Dork Side of the Force that I'm editing. So I got stories on that too. Yeah, so I think that's the best place at Mia J Media. You can find me there, follow and follow back.
Oh, Mandalorian's coming up.
Mandalorian.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, that'll be our next obsession with TV. Did you like the first season? I love the first
I
season.
loved it. Yeah, it was really awesome. Yeah.
Anything with Baby Yoda, man. I'm down with that, man. I love Baby Yoda.
Yeah, that was a winner.
But yeah, that's gonna be fun. Mandalorian season 2 coming up in the couple. I think what the 30th or 31st.
30th, yeah.
30th.
Yeah. So there we go right there. We got something to look forward to coming right off of Lovecraft Country. But, yeah, we'll be back next week. You can look forward to us next week on here in the building. Next Wednesday, we'll be back on live here on YouTube. Talk some more stuff about the election and, whatever else is making us crazy here in America nowadays. And we'll just keep it going, keep it moving. Dave, Demond, y'all got anything else y'all want to add, man?
No, thank you for having me on. Yeah. Thanks for having us on.
Yeah, for sure, man. WeAreRigorRadio.com, the centerpiece site. That's where you get all our content in some manner. And We Are Rigor Radio, War on Anchor, our podcast platform. You can subscribe to us on any number of podcast platforms, including Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, just about any of them that you can mention, the major ones. You could subscribe to us, your whatever you prefer. And just keep up with us, subscribe, share, and all that, and support the people who support us, like Mia. And
that's right.
Keep showing love, and we'll show it right back. You want to say something, D?
No, I was going to say, just make sure also too, you can follow me on Twitter at Demons1, DEMONDE1.
Yeah, should follow Demons because he always got some crazy stuff he's saying about something.
I do.
I'm on work_right on Twitter. You can follow me or not follow me. Like I said, not enough of you follow me already, but if you want to follow me, go ahead. But K-Mean on Instagram too. I'm a decent follow on Instagram as well. So, but that's it. I'm gonna wrap it up. And
all right.
Yeah, that's it for this week. And again, Mia, thank you very much.
Thank you, Mia.
And we'll see y'all later, man. All right, have a good one. Have a good week.
Peace, everybody.
Strong out here.
Peace.